Welcome to the Jamodi podcast, where we interview coaches and leaders to find out not just what they do, but how they do what they do. Becoming the best version of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it. So I know probably as a coach, you were pretty active with social media, and now even especially maybe even more in what those jobs and things that you're doing now. So instead of just how to use social media to enhance your program, how should coaches use social media to better their players, better their programs?
Social media is such a tricky space, right? Like there's kind of this overusage in some aspects, and there's kind of this underusage, and then there's also this consumption that can happen with it, right? Like overconsumption or over. That's a good question. I think coaches. Well, I think for one, I think it's an amazing opportunity more now than ever to tell your own narrative, right? To let the inside of your program. And I guess the biggest thing I would say is like, be authentic, even though social media is not built on authenticity, right? Social media is built on all these other algorithms that really don't honor authenticity. They honor all these other things, right? And so there's an element in the time to still do some of the things that can fit in the space and still be authentic. But I just think you have to show up and be real, be authentic, and let people inside of what happens behind some of the closed doors, whatever you feel comfortable with. But I think the cool parts are that you can celebrate your players more now than you ever could before. And you talk about confidence, like that factors into some of these kids' confidence, like getting acknowledgement from the program. Some of the weekly stuff you do in off season where a kid gets to hold a belt, where maybe he was the most competitive or the toughest guy, or he did the best in boot camp. Like there's ways to honor the star and guys that aren't stars. I think that's the cool part too, is like honoring some of the guys that are doing the stuff behind the scenes. Whether it's a story of like, hey, this is his story of how he got here, doing a special feature on him and having somebody else do it, but you put it out from your maybe somebody else in the department. Maybe you guys don't have the time, but somebody in the athletic department can record it. There's a film student on campus somewhere. I think that's cool. I think the coaches being able to share more about the mic'd up experience at practice is cool. I think it's a fine line. I just think everything should be authentic. I saw one program doing this recently, and they don't have maybe as big of a media market, but like after a win or a loss, like the guy, the SID or whoever, just records the coach talking for a minute and a half. Not long. It's not a press conference. They don't have press conferences there, but he just gives his own take on what happened in the game. And so it just gives you more of a chance to control your narrative from your point of view and not letting the masses kind of dictate what's said.
Create it.
I think Duncanville High School has probably done as elite of a job as any in the high school realm of taking their program that was already becoming elite when PV first got there, and they have a storied history. But I think PV has made, and their program has made it cool to play at Duncanville, not just because they win, but because they also cover and they have they do creative things with their social media to celebrate their players, to celebrate their culture, but to tell their story. And it's not like, oh, well, you can't do both. Well, you can do both. You can win at a high level and still celebrate your program and share. So I think there's a fine line. That program comes to mind in high school because I don't know if it's perceived as as cool in high school as maybe it is in college. College is more of a part of the production, if you will. They've kind of made it a part of the production. I think those things are cool. I think anytime you can create positive moments and share authenticity, it's a great thing.
I love the idea of using it to celebrate the entire program. And because most teams will have those one or two guys that they're getting noticed or celebrated from other medias. But so you obviously want to, it's that balance. You want to recognize them, but still bring something to the other guys that may not in basketball get to a different level. So, and I love what you said too about being able to shape the narrative, because after a win or a loss, especially on the coaching side, from I believe as a coach who does his own social media, but then the programs as well. The program needs to be all about the players and all about what's happening, but almost more of a objective view. But then what I can do is piggybacking off of that platform, shape what, like you said, bring people in a little bit, after a loss. I think what most people would think or believe is that that coaches are just so frustrated, bitter, angry, and searching for answers. But I think what happens most of the time is, especially when we give ourselves time as coaches, we realize we're closer. Our team is closer than what it appeared, and we're moving in the right direction. And when we get to show that or voice that, then you're right. Like, whoever's watching, if it's even just your own players, that will allow them to let that loss go. We're going to learn from it. We're going to be better from it. Man, coach just said that. I think I listened to a podcast years ago. I don't even remember who it was. And he just said, if you're a coach at any level and you're not using social media to enhance your program, you're behind. And I don't want to be, you and I are competitive, so I don't want to be behind in anything. And so I started to try to do that for wherever I've been. But I love hearing from, your perspective from the experience you've had with college. I love hearing that.
Yeah, I think it's a cool space to be able to do. There's always a balance, but I do think you can acknowledge players that wouldn't get the acknowledgement. You can celebrate that, and you can celebrate, to piggyback real quick, you can celebrate past players and other things around it. You can celebrate community service. You can celebrate an alumni who's somewhere. I think one thing that's cool with junior colleges right now, what they're doing is celebrating their guys that are at 4-year schools and honoring when they play well or whatever. And it's kind of a cool thing to keep up with them and them still feel a part of the family. They're still being celebrated. I think U of H in particular comes to mind. They celebrate their alumni really well on their social media to honor the people, not just Olajuwon and Drexler, who everyone knows. Yeah, they're celebrating people that. So I think those things are cool when you can do that, and then and just let, again, people inside. And I think if I would say one last thing is just like letting people know your program is about business and does have standards. Let them know the inside, the character of your program. But also, man, if you can have fun with your social media, it makes it where players feel like it's not just all business. And I think that's a part of like life. We got to be able to have fun while we're striving for excellence.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.